have mercy upon us. Lord, have mercy upon us. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness hast appointed the office of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of men and women, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us, thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in these islands. Let thy blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. And this we beg for Jesus Christ's sake. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Put the bar across. Just put the bar across. Thank you. Morning, members. The prayer has been given. The House is now in session. Morning. Morning. Thank you. Good morning, members. Welcome back after a break from the chambers. I'm sure everyone's eager to get on with business today. Before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge in the gallery of the visiting sorority, the Doubters visiting with us today. I believe this is the second year in a row. They were here last year, was it? Yeah. So we welcome you today and look forward to you at least finding the morning session interesting, and we can chat after the morning session is done. Look forward to that. We'll start this morning. The confirmation of minutes. The minutes from the sitting of the 27th of March have been circulated. Are there any amendments required? There are none. The minutes will be confirmed as printed. Messages from the governor. There are none. Announcements from the speaker. I've received 2 acknowledgments this morning from Minister of Health, Minister Wilson, and from MP Curtis Dickerson that they will be absent today. Messages from the Senate. There are none. Papers and other communications to the House. There were 3 such papers this morning. The first is in the name of the Premier Minister of Finance. Premier?
Thank you. Good morning to you, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of the Honorable House of Assembly the International Cooperation Tax Information Exchange Agreements, Com Reporting Standard Amendment Regulations 2026, as made by the Minister of Finance and exercise the powers conferred by Section 12 of the International Cooperation Tax Information Exchange Agreements Act 2005.
Yep. Second paper this morning is in the name of the Minister of Tourism, Transport, and Culture and Sport. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of this Honorable House of Assembly the Motor Taxi Dispatch Service Amendment Regulations 2026, as made by the Minister responsible for transport and exercise of the power conferred by Section 37A of the Motor Car Act 1951.
And there's a second statement paper from yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of this Honorable House the Motor Car Ride Sharing Regulations 2026, as made by the Minister responsible for transport and exercise of the power conferred by Section 37 and 102 of the Motor Car Act 1951. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. That brings us to a close of the papers and communications today. The next is petitions. There are none. We'll now move on to the statements by ministers and junior ministers, and they're pretty lengthy this morning. We have 10 statements this morning. The first is in the name of the Premier. Premier, would you like to present your statement?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will give the first statement in the order as listed in the order paper entitled Consultation on the Proposed Process for Constitutional Reform. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to inform this Honorable House that the Government of Bermuda has formally commenced consultation on the proposed process for constitutional reform. Nearly 6 years have passed since the introduction of the Bermuda Constitutional Order in 1968, and it has been more than 2 decades since substantial reforms were last achieved. Mr. Speaker, the first Progressive Labour Party government cemented the electoral process under which we now operate, enshrining one man, one or woman, one vote, each vote of equal value, into our Constitution. That is this government's legacy of fairness and democracy achieved under the leadership of the former Honorable Member, Dame Jennifer Smith, and the late former Honorable Member and Attorney General, Dame Lois Brown Evans. Mr. Speaker, since that time, Bermuda and the world have changed socially, legally, and technologically. The time has therefore come to consider constitutional modernization in a serious, structured, and inclusive way. Honorable members will recall that the speech from the throne in March 2025 signaled the commencement of this process, in so doing confirmed electoral and constitutional reforms should mirror the times in which we live, and the strength of the systems is in their ability to adjust and meet the demands of the times. End quote. Mr. Speaker, I'll be clear from the outset. This process of modernization will be the result of careful, considered change to a constitutional framework that has served Bermuda for almost 6 decades. Changes will not be made without scrutiny by this Honorable House, meaningful participation by the people of Bermuda, and ultimately the agreement of the government of the United Kingdom. Mr. Speaker, in advance of my remarks today, I've written to the Leader of the Opposition, the Chief Justice, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House Assembly, and other relevant heads to notify them of commencement of this consultation and to provide the draft recommendations for their consideration. Each has been invited to provide feedback, the intent of which is to improve and finalize Bermuda's map to an improved constitutional framework. The draft recommendations now before stakeholders are a product of significant research, analysis, and engagement. That work included the examination of Bermuda's constitutional history and comparative constitutional practice across other British overseas territories and the Commonwealth nations of the Caribbean. It also reflects input from Government House, the Opposition, the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice, the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, the Chief Justice, Director of Public Prosecutions, Clerks of the Legislature, and other senior constitutional appointees, technical officers, and contributors. These efforts have culminated in the draft recommendations for a Bermuda-led constitutional reform process, which set out a proposed five-phase pathway for constitutional reform. As Bermuda is a British overseas territory, the United Kingdom's consent is required for constitutional reform. The United Kingdom has indicated that Bermuda may design and carry out its own process, provided that the process is a cross-party, inclusive, transparent, proportionate, and consultative. The proposed process has been designed to meet those requirements, reflecting this government's commitment to full public participation and transparency in consultation and process. Mr. Speaker, this government is firmly committed to ensuring that constitutional reform is conducted in a measured and inclusive manner, ensuring that its legitimacy is not an afterthought, but the foundation upon which the entire process has been designed. As a result, the proposed 5 phases are: Phase 1, process design and agreement. Gathering informed feedback on the proposed process, improving the draft, securing broad multi-partisan agreement, and formally initiating the process following the approval of the United Kingdom. Phase 2, implementation preparation. Establishing the legal framework and organizational structures to deliver the process, including a Constitutional Reform Commission and an Executive Steering Committee. Phase 3, awareness, education, engagement. Providing civic education, plain language information opportunities for community submissions on constitutional priorities. Phase 4, constitutional conference and drafting, convening a locally designed and led constitutional conference to deliberate on the priorities and develop draft recommendations for constitutional amendments. Phase 5, finalization, approval, and ratification, securing local approval, submitting recommendations to the United Kingdom, undertaking bilateral discussions, and ratifying agreed amendments by an order in council. Mr. Speaker, we are now at the beginning of Phase 1. By virtue of their constitutional roles and responsibilities, the current consultation is directed at the leaders and stewards of the 3 branches of government to gather their views on the process. The Bermuda Bar Council has also been invited to participate as a critical stakeholder with relevant legal expertise. Mr. Speaker, I think it important to underline the central role proposed for the legislature in the constitutional reform process. Members of the legislature are invited to scrutinize the draft process and in time consider enabling legislation, debate future reform proposals, and evidence their support before recommendations are advanced to the United Kingdom. The participation of both houses on behalf of the people we represent is critical for progressing reform. Mr. Speaker, public participation is also essential. Following agreement on the process, the people of Bermuda will be invited to help shape the reform agenda enabled through public education, plain language information, submissions, community dialogue, deliberation, and fulsome consultation on the developed proposals. The purpose is to ensure that participation is meaningful, accessible, informed, and includes a cross-section of Bermudian society. Mr. Speaker, the mention of constitutional reform can understandably give rise to concern that intended change in its nature is a pretext for something larger, something more fundamental that has not been put to the people. Let me be clear, we're embarking upon this process of modernization, the kind of careful, considered maintenance that any living constitutional document requires after 6 decades. I'll note this is not a process Bermuda is undertaking alone. The United Kingdom has itself committed most recently at the 2025 Joint Ministerial Council to engage closely and proactively with each overseas territories whose democratic will is to revise its constitution. That commitment reflects a shared understanding that modernization of this kind is both reasonable and overdue. The process is proposed to be transparent, and any proposed changes will be considered in advance following consultation with the people of Bermuda and the approval of the legislature. As is the case with each British overseas territory, final approval rests with the government of the United Kingdom. I wish to thank those who contributed to the development of draft recommendations, including the Attorney General's Chambers, the Cabinet Office, the London Office, the legislature, and the many individuals, including retirees, who gave their time and expertise to inform this work. Mr. Speaker, I will ensure this Honorable House and the public are kept informed of the progress and outcome of the consultation, and look forward to the feedback it will generate in support of our shared goal of a better Constitution for Bermuda. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Premier. Members, the second statement this morning is also in the name of the Premier. Premier, would you like to proceed with your second statement?
With pleasure, Mr. Speaker.
Right ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I rise again today to update this Honorable House on the latest independent assessments from international credit ratings agencies. These ratings agencies confirm Bermuda's improving fiscal position and strengthened economy, boosting investor confidence, which is an important factor in continued business growth and investment. Mr. Speaker, in the space of 2 weeks, 3 leading credit agencies have completed their latest reviews of Bermuda's creditworthiness. On April 29, 2026, Kroll Braun Rating Agency, KBRA, affirmed Bermuda's long-term issuer ratings at A+, our short-term ratings at K1+, and improved our long-term outlook from stable to positive. Mr. Speaker, KBRA said the action of revising Bermuda's outlook from stable to positive reflects the constructive structural shift of Bermuda's public finances driven by the corporate income tax. KBRA noted that high revenues will facilitate debt reduction and create room for further payroll and other tax relief that benefits the wider economy. The agency also pointed to Bermuda's world-class international business services sector, our role as a hub for emerging financial industries, and our strong institutions and regulatory environment as factors that position the island for continued prosperity. On May 4, 2026, S&P Global Ratings affirmed our A+ long-term and A1 short-term ratings and improved Bermuda's outlook from stable to positive. Mr. Speaker, in their report, S&P Global said it expects Bermuda's finances to, and I quote, continue to strengthen, end quote, noting Bermuda's effective and predictable policymaking and the stability of our key industries. They also advised that the new corporate income tax would allow the government to, and I quote, to fully repay an upcoming debt maturity in 2027, end quote, helping to return Bermuda to a net general government creditor position. Mr. Speaker, in practical terms, this places Bermuda in a stronger financial position to meet its obligations while creating greater capacity to invest the priorities that support Bermudians and their future. Mr. Speaker, on May 5th, 2027, Moody's Ratings upgraded Bermuda's long-term issuer rating from A2 to A1 with a stable outlook. Mr. Speaker, Moody's decision is particularly significant. Moody's is one of the most respected names in sovereign credit analysis, and it is a direct upgrade of Bermuda's sovereign credit rating, which was downgraded in 2016 from A1 to A2. This places our island more firmly in the upper tier of investment-grade jurisdictions. Moody's stated that the upgrade reflects the improvement in fiscal strength that is expected to continue in the coming years. The agency also noted the introduction of corporate income tax represents a structural increase in government revenue, which it expects will lead to, and I quote, a sustained track record of fiscal surpluses, continued improvement in debt affordability, and faster and durable reduction in Bermuda's debt burden. However, Mr. Speaker, there is one additional point that I believe is essential to note from page 1 of Moody's report. The ratings agency stated, and I quote again, even before the benefits of corporate income tax accrue, fiscal strength had improved steadily in recent years, supported by continued fiscal consolidation, end quote. Mr. Speaker, an independent assessment by a leading ratings agency has concluded that Bermuda's progress did not begin with corporate income tax, but before. This reflects several years of sound fiscal management and execution of Bermuda's economic recovery plan after the COVID-19 pandemic, which returned the government's budget surplus for the first time in over 2 decades, while still providing tax relief for workers, pension increases for our seniors, and a record investment in affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, taken together, the message from these 3 independent agencies is clear and consistent. Bermuda's public finances have entered a new era. The decisions taken by this government are producing tangible outcomes recognized by the world's leading ratings agencies. Mr. Speaker, the specific figures cited in these reports speak for themselves. Bermuda's debt burden is expected to decline to 27% of GDP, down from a peak of 49% in 2020 during the pandemic. Our interest to revenue ratio is expected to fall below 6% in 2026-27 compared to 13% in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. Moody's expects sustained fiscal surpluses around 5% of GDP over the next 2 to 3 years. And as this Honorable House is already aware, this government will repay $605 million of debt in full in January 2027. This is the single largest repayment of national debt in Bermuda's history, and I agree with the opposition whip who is, chuntering from a sedentary position that this is good news. So you wanted to say it again, Mr. Speaker, so I'll repeat it for the benefit of the opposition whip. This government will repay $605 million of debt in full in January 2027. Mr. Speaker, KBRA, S&P Global, and Moody's have also recognized the steps this government is taking to safeguard these gains for the long term. Moody's noted the government plans to reinforce the fiscal policy framework, including formal fiscal rules, the establishment of a stabilization fund and sovereign wealth fund, and the continued use of the sinking fund. This agency said that these measures, once in place, would support the durability of fiscal surpluses and a more resilient decline in the debt burden. Mr. Speaker, for Bermudians, these ratings have a real and practical meaning. A stronger credit profile improves Bermuda's standing in global financial markets and supports investor confidence in our economy. Lower debt and lower interest costs for the government can also filter across the economy as the sovereign rating helps shape how financial institutions in Bermuda are viewed in global markets. Mr. Speaker, the 3 independent ratings agencies also identified longer-term challenges, including the structural constraints of Bermuda's small size, our economic concentration, and demographic pressures. The government is addressing those issues through our economic development strategy, our work on healthcare reform, and our plans to build fiscal buffers. Why does that matter, Mr. Speaker? Because when you build those fiscal buffers, you give your country the ability to act when people need support. Just last month, when volatility in global oil markets threatened to push fuel prices sharply higher, this government stepped in to hold prices steady, shielding Bermudian households and businesses from higher costs at the pump. That is the difference that fiscal discipline makes. Without it, governments have no room to act when people need help the most. Mr. Speaker, before I close, I want to acknowledge the public officers, the Ministry of Finance, and across government whose work has made this progress possible. I also want to thank the people of Bermuda, Mr. Speaker. Through a challenging global period, Bermudians have stayed the course, and these improved ratings are a reflection of that collective effort. Mr. Speaker, this government remains focused on responsible financial management, reducing Bermuda's debt while investing in our people, upgrading our infrastructure, strengthening public education, expanding healthcare access, easing the burden on working Bermudians, and building a fairer, more stable, and affordable Bermuda that the people of this country voted for in 2025. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister for the Cabinet Office. Minister, would you like to present your statement this morning?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and I'll go in the order of that they are listed in the order paper.
Yes, please follow the order paper, yes?
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the recent publication of the City of Hamilton Ground Floor Use and Vacancy Survey 2025 by the Department of Planning. Mr. Speaker, you will recall that the City of Hamilton Plan 2025 was adopted in June 9th, 2025. In preparing that plan, the department undertook an extensive exercise of research and data collection to ensure that the end product was an evidence-based document with a policy framework equipped to respond to the real-time circumstances, needs, and opportunities of the city. Mr. Speaker, as part of that data collection exercise, the department surveyed ground floor units across the city for the purposes of determining occupancy rates and gaining a clear understanding of the dispersal of uses across the city and how these factors impact the city's overall viability. Mr. Speaker, ground floor occupancy surveys, or health checks as they are called in other jurisdictions, offer a tangible way of monitoring the vitality of a defined area and consequently its economic health. The ground floor units of any city are what shapes the pedestrian experience, serving as the interface between buildings and the public realm. Furthermore, ground floor activity can often be the principal determinant in defining the overall perception that people have of an area. Mr. Speaker, for these reasons, the Department of Planning believes that it is important to collect this data on a regular basis. Regular data collection and analysis also allow the department to effectively monitor the impacts of planning policy over time and respond to the findings where necessary. Mr. Speaker, the 2025 survey is an update of a similar exercise conducted in 2022, a bit with refined methodology, designed to provide data with a higher degree of accuracy and reliability. While acknowledging that the methodology has evolved, I'm pleased to report that the department's findings show that there's been a decline in the city's vacancy rates from approximately 15% in 2022 to 10% in 2025. For confirmations, the field surveys of the 2025 data took place of June and July of last year. Mr. Speaker, the survey shows that a total of 944 ground level units within the city, with 847 of those units being occupied at the time of the survey. I believe this speaks highly to the high resiliency of the city in the face of ongoing economic circumstances for high streets around the world. However, we cannot and will not rest on our laurels, as we are acutely aware of several prominent vacancies within our retail core. Mr. Speaker, this government is intent on continuing to support the economic growth of the city, as evidenced by the designation of the city's 2 economic empowerment zones and expanding the approved residential scheme initiative to cover the entire city. In addition, I'm optimistic about the ongoing implementation of the City of Hamilton Plan 2025 and how a discretionary approach to decision-making can assist in unlocking the city's potential. Mr. Speaker, in terms of ground floor uses, it's perhaps unsurprising to note that retailing is the most dominant with 220 units, followed by residential uses, which account for 188 ground floor units. As expected, retailing activity is highly concentrated in the southwestern quadrant of the city, in alignment with the retail core of the City of Hamilton Plan 2025. Residential use predominate on ground floors of properties located in the northeastern part of the city, which is again unsurprising given the long-established character of this area as a residential neighborhood. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to emphasize strong support offered within the City of Hamilton Plan 2025 for residential development in recognizing that increasing and densifying residential units within the city has multi-layered benefits. For example, it offers a sustained solution to the pressures being experienced within Bermuda's housing market by encouraging residents to live close to employment generators and reducing the need to travel to access services and facilities, while also reducing the pressure for greenfield development in other parts of the island. Increased residential development in the city also creates a greater catchment from which existing and prospective city-based businesses can benefit, therefore directly enhancing the city's economic conditions. Mr. Speaker, the data has shown that there is a high diversity of ground floor uses within the city, which is a clear indication of multifunctional urban core. The city serves a wide variety of needs, and this diversification of uses is a key factor in supporting the city's overall resilience. Mr. Speaker, I am encouraged by the findings of this valuable data collection exercise and hope that we can continue to see a positive trend in reduced vacancy rates as the city enters a new era. Furthermore, I'm also proud to see the Department of Planning delivering upon its commitments to produce key data on a more frequent and regular basis. Mr. Speaker, the department has previously outlined the importance of evidence-based policy formation, an approach that I firmly believe in and support. There must be a clear correlation between what is happening on the ground and how policies are responding to those conditions. This, Mr. Speaker, is what leads to the development of responsive planning policies which truly are fit for purpose. Mr. Speaker, the department will continue to collect data in relation to a range of topics that are impacted by planning policies to ensure that established policy frameworks are having the intended effect and are remaining relevant and current. Monitoring the long-term effects of planning policy and consistently documenting this information allows the department to enter a cylindrical process of policy implementation, monitoring, refinement, and constantly learning lessons and enabling informed evolution of planning policy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, the next statement is also in your name. Would you like to continue?
Yes, Mr.
Go right
Speaker.
ahead.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to update this honorable House on the successful launch of government's new digital portal, a major step towards modernizing how the public accesses information and services. Mr. Speaker, the portal is now live, serving the people of Bermuda, delivering on our commitment to create a simpler, more efficient, and more accessible way for the public to interact with government. For many years, the residents, businesses, and community organizations have shared a common frustration that the government information could be difficult to find, spread across multiple websites, or presented in ways that are not always clear or user-friendly. This new portal was designed to directly address those concerns. It brings together government services, official information, public updates, and essential resources into one organized platform, structured around how people actually seek information by topic, by task, and by life event. Mr. Speaker, since its launch, the portal has already begun to improve the user experience for the public. Pages are clearly structured, language has been simplified, and services are grouped in a way that allows users to move from information to action without unnecessary delays or confusion. One of the most valuable features has been the improved search function. Users can now enter simple, everyday terms and receive accurate and relevant results quickly. This reduces frustration, saves time, and helps ensure that people can complete what they came to do. Mr. Speaker, the portal has also been built for the way people live and work today. Many residents access government services from their phones, and the platform performs consistently across mobile devices, tablets, and desktop computers. This ensures the services remain available wherever and whenever people need them. Accessibility has also been central to the design. The system meets recognized accessibility standards, ensuring persons with disabilities, including those who rely on screen readers and other assistive technologies, can use the platform independently and with confidence. Mr. Speaker, privacy and security has been treated as a fundamental priority from the outset. The portal has been designed to safeguard personal information and ensure that data remains under government control. It does not rely on external tracker tools, and security protections have been built into the platform from the start. Another important aspect of this achievement is how it's been delivered. This portal has been developed largely by our internal teams, drawing on the expertise and commitment of public officers across the government. By investing in our own people, we have reduced reliance on external vendors, avoided significant long-term licensing costs, and created a platform that continues to evolve under direct management of the public service. This also allows departments to make updates more efficiently, ensuring that information remains accurate, timely, and relevant to the public. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the officers across the Ministry of the Cabinet Office and Digital Innovation, at the Department of Communications, the Department of Information and Digital Technologies, and all supporting teams to make this work possible, namely David Wellman, Kalia Nisbeth, Deja Trott, Maria Kelly, and Delano Seymour. Mr. Speaker, While the portal is now launched, it is not the end of the work. The foundation for continued improvement. It is the foundation for continued improvement. The existing government website at www.gov.bm remains available during the transitional period, while the new portal at www.2.gov.bm continues to expand and improve based upon public use and feedback. Mr. Speaker, this initiative forms part of a wider program of digital transformation across government. Work continues to increase the number of services that can be completed online, reducing the need for in-person visits. Provide a more joined-up experience so users do not have to navigate multiple departments to complete a single task. Strengthening identity verification and data protection measures to maintain public trust. Improve digital payment options, making transactions faster and more convenient. Enable better coordination between government systems so that information can be shared appropriately across departments, and equip government officers with the digital skills needed to operate effectively in a modern public service environment. Mr. Speaker, as we continue to expand the portal, further updates will be provided to ensure more government information is made available proactively and in a way easier for public access and for the public to access and understand. This particularly is important in supporting the public access to information, or PADI process, where members of the public request access to government records and information. An important part of this work is improving how we engage with requesters early in the PADI process, helping them to better define and narrow broad requests and guiding them towards specific records that may already be publicly available or that can be accessed more efficiently. By strengthening this approach, we can improve public understanding of the information government already holds, deliver faster and more effective service, and reduce the administrative burden that often comes with lengthy and resource-intensive PADI request processing. In many cases, this will mean fewer formal information requests are needed because the right information can be found more quickly, more clearly, and with less delay on the portal itself. Mr. Speaker, our overall goal is practical and straightforward: to deliver services that are easier to use, more reliable, and better suited to the expectations of the people we serve. This is about improving everyday interactions with government, whether someone applying for a license, paying a fee, accessing public services, or simply trying to find accurate information. We are not simply maintaining a website, we are improving how government communicates, how services are delivered, and how we respond to the needs of our community. The launch of this portal represents a meaningful step towards a more modern, responsive, and efficient public service. I encourage residents, businesses, community organizations, and all members of the public to visit www.2.gov.bm to explore its features and share its experiences so we can continue refining the service and shaping a platform that truly reflects the needs of Bermuda. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of Minister of Home Affairs. Minister?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
This morning I rise to update this Honorable House and the people of Bermuda on the continued progress of the National Electricity Sector Policy, NESP, advanced by the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Department of Energy. This work reflects this government's determination to confront one of the most consequential issues facing our country: the cost, reliability, and the future of electricity in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, electricity powers every Bermudian home, it sustained every business on the island, and it underpins our national resilience. It shapes the cost of living, influences economic competitiveness, and determines how effectively we respond to a changing climate. Mr. Speaker, the reform of electricity in Bermuda began in April 2025, when the ministry became clear-eyed about what was required in advance of a completed policy. A ministerial directive was issued to the Regulatory Authority of Bermuda signaling the policy direction. That directive established 3 priorities: enhanced transparency through annual reporting, capacity building through resource development, and a comprehensive review of the electricity transmission and distribution model to explore fair pricing structures and identify cost-saving opportunities. The directive was the opening act for this reform. The National Electricity Sector Policy is the framework that brings this reform into alignment. Mr. Speaker, I must be candid with this House about a matter that bears directly on why this policy is necessary. Bermuda's Integrated Resource Plan has been in various stages of development since 2019. It's established a target of 85% renewable deployment, and in 2026 has not been fully operational. Its provisions have not been stewarded into deployment. The IRP is the instrument that directs Bermuda's electricity future, informed by the government's policy. It charts the course for generation investment, infrastructure renewal, and the integration of renewable energy. It defines cost, reliability, and the pace of Bermuda's energy transition. The existing legislative framework established by the Electricity Act of 2016, the IRP is proposed by the utility and reviewed by the regulatory authority, a process in which has proven cumbersome. Proposed plans often run contrary to the government's policy, the very policy that Bermudians elected us to deliver. In 2026, with families battling electricity costs compounded by global events, those delays are no longer something that Bermuda can afford. The 2026 policy seeks to address that failure. The Integrated Resource Plan sits at the center of the framework, and the legislative amendments now in development will place responsibility for the preparing of the IRP to the regulatory authority with input from the entire industry. The future of this sector requires precise regulatory rigor and disciplined implementation. Policy that is adopted and left to languish serves no one. Mr. Speaker, I recently participated in the International Visitors Leadership Program, focused on energy policy and development, sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. I met with institutions that shape American energy governance. In Washington, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the Congressional Research Service; in Oklahoma, the Corporation Commission; site visits to pipeline infrastructure and hydropower facilities; in Louisiana, the Public Service Commission and the LSU Center on Energy Studies, and as well as the Palo Verde Nuclear Generation Station. Every jurisdiction I visited, regardless of size, structure, or political context, had made the same foundational choice: deliberate reform, genuine regulatory authority, and resource planning, investment in people alongside the infrastructure. The results were stable prices, transparent oversight, accountable planning, and energy markets built to serve the customers. Mr. Speaker, of note, in Louisiana, the Public Service Commission built frameworks for large-scale energy investment with rigorous consumer protection. That approach attracts global technology companies seeking reliable, competitively priced power. The infrastructure built to serve the new businesses, from generation to transmission to grid resilience, benefited each and every existing customer. These arrangements are projected to deliver billions in savings to residential and commercial customers over 20 years. Large customers fund energy efficiency programs for the communities that they have joined, supporting the vulnerable. The framework secures commitments to renewable development and grid resilience. Every benefit flows from the public because the regulatory architecture demands it. Mr. Speaker, it is accepted that Bermuda is different and is a different jurisdiction with different constraints. We are a small island with a single utility and a captive electricity market. The lessons learned about the architecture and vision can be applied here, though. When resource planning is rigorous, when regulatory oversight is precise, and when implementation is disciplined, energy reform delivers results for the public. That experience reinforced a conviction that shapes every element in our policy. Bermuda's electricity sector requires the same commitment to deliberate, structured reform. Business as usual will produce the same outcomes we have always received. The people of Bermuda deserve better, and this government will deliver better. Mr. Speaker, the National Electricity Sector Policy establishes a clear and disciplined framework to guide the future of Bermuda's electricity sector. It is grounded in the central objective of delivering an electricity sector that is affordable, reliable, resilient, sustainable, and equitable for all Bermudians. Affordability is at the forefront. Rising electricity costs place real and sustained pressures on households and businesses across the island. The policy reinforces the equal priority of reliability and resilience, ensuring that Bermuda's electricity infrastructure can withstand disruption, respond to system pressures, and adapt to the realities of climate risk. The policy moves away from the prescriptive targets and focuses on least cost development. The integrated resource planning process assesses all generation, infrastructure, and demand side options on consistent, evidence-based basis. The future IRP will be prepared with the regulatory rigor and implementation discipline that has been absent. Ambition must be matched with practical, economic, sound execution. Mr. Speaker, honorable members will recall the Energy Policy Steering Committee, the EPSC, established to support this work. We thank them for their input and expertise, which brought together voices from across the electricity sector. Mr. Speaker, the revised draft policy was published on the Citizens Forum on April 20th and will be live until May 21st. A town hall meeting will take place on Monday, May 18th. I encourage all Bermudians to read the draft policy and share their views. Mr. Speaker, the reform of Bermuda's electricity sector is the defining infrastructure challenge of this generation. The decisions that we make will determine what Bermudians will pay for their power, how resilient our grid is when the next storm arrives, and whether our economy can compete in a world that is demanding more energy at lower cost. I have seen what deliberate reform produces, and I have also seen what is possible when regulation turns planning into deployment and deployment into measurable savings for households and businesses. This policy establishes the framework for legislative amendments and enforcement, and I look forward to updating this honorable House as this work advances. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement is also in the minister's name. Minister, would you like to proceed? You're right here, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise today to update this honorable House and the people of Bermuda on the ongoing work to modernize Bermuda's rental housing framework. The public may recall the first phase of the public consultation on the draft Landlord and Tenant Act closed on the 31st of October 2025. The work in the months since has been deliberate, detailed, and shaped by what the community has told us. Mr. Speaker, the government has committed to two reforms of consequence. The first is the modernization of a broader tenancy framework, replacing the Landlord and Tenant Act and the Rent Increases Domestic Premises Control Act of 1978, with a single coherent statute fit for the realities of a housing in Bermuda today. The second is the establishment of a national housing registry, the institutional architecture that will give the government, landlords, and tenants a clear and current picture of the rental market for the first time in our country's history. These reforms are interrelated and they are being advanced in parallel and connected with the broader and anticipated Landlord and Tenant Act. Mr. Speaker, the consultation we opened in September of last year was the most extensive engagement on rental reform that this ministry has ever undertaken. Submissions were received from tenants, landlords, property managers, the Bar Association, the Real Estate Division of the Chamber of Commerce, and members of the public through the Citizens Forum. The ministry also hosted a virtual town hall to better outline the reform efforts underway. The public consultation summary document was published on the Citizens Forum, which captured what the public told us and will shape and continue to shape the refinement of this bill. Mr. Speaker, since the close of the consultation, the ministry has done three things. First, every submission has been read and assessed. The drafters of this bill, in partnership with the Attorney General's chambers, have spent the months since the consultation working with each substantive issue. Second, the policy framework underpinning the bill has been developed in greater depth. The Cabinet has recently been invited to consider and approve the way that rents are administered. The framework that will be reflected in the upcoming consultative bill will now distinguish clearly between the market setting the initial rent at the point of letting and the law governing how rent change once the tenants are in its residence. That distinction is foundational. It preserves the freedom of contract that landlords expect while giving tenants the protection from arbitrary rent increases that families need. Mr. Speaker, this represents an abolition of the rent control regime as Bermuda has known for nearly 50 years. It is not withdrawal from oversight, but it is the replacement of an outdated mechanism with a modern regulatory framework that applies equally across the rental market. The change carries real meaning for the many Bermudian families who own their homes, Households that rely on rental income as part of their finances or their retirement security will have a clear right to invest in, maintain, and responsibly manage their properties while operating within a system that ensures fairness to the families who rent from it. The registry is being built with privacy by design, leveraging the existing design of the land valuation website, which lists the assessment numbers and tax figures, and further is informed by the architecture of jurisdictions, including Scotland, where there is a landlord register that has been in operation since '06, and Spain, where centralized lease platforms was established by royal decree in 2024. Mr. Speaker, critically, the registry places the binary structure of the existing framework where a single annual rent value threshold has historically determined which tenants were protected and which were not. That structure created two classes of renter, the regulated and the unregulated, and cannot be defended in a modern housing system. Under a new framework, every residential rental property in Bermuda, regardless of its values, will be registered. Standards will apply universally, including standards of the quality of upkeep that tenants are entitled to expect. Mr. Speaker, this is no different in principle from the verification that Bermuda already requires before entry into any regulated activity. A new business must register before it can trade. A vehicle must be verified before it can operate on our roads. A licensed profession cannot be practiced without authorization. It is a right and a long overdue that the activity of letting a home among the most consequential transactions in any Bermudian family's life to be held to the same baseline. Third, the ministry has aligned its reforms with the intentions outlined in the Affordable Bermuda Agenda, published in September 2025. The updated bill aims to protect what exists, ensure fair and equitable treatment in the existing market, and provide data infrastructure that current and future strategies require. Mr. Speaker, the refinement of the legislation of this scale does take time, and the ministry has been careful to ensure that such large consolidation is not rushed, but does travel a considered journey. But likewise, the ministry appreciates and intends to act on the relief that the public urgently deserves. Mr. Speaker, as a reminder to the Honorable House, the original rent control law was passed in December 1971 as a one-year emergency measure drawn from the Hong Kong Rent Control Act and set to expire on December 31st of 1972. It was renewed year after year until 1978, when the Rent Increases Domestic Control Act of 1978 was passed and made permanent. That stopgap measure, written for the conditions of 1971, has carried the weight of Bermuda's tenant protection regime for nearly 5 decades. As a task given to this minister and this ministry, it was important that it not just be simply carried forward, but assessed appropriately for modernization. We accept that we are building institutional architecture intended to serve generations. The framework being constructed today must be capable of carrying the weight of a modern rental market for the decades that follow, not only the year in which it was passed. Mr. Speaker, but the public should not be in doubt where this work stands. The bill is being refined to reflect the feedback received, and a second round of stakeholder and public engagement will be convened before the consolidated bill is tabled in this House. Mr. Speaker, the case for this reform has not weakened, it rather has strengthened. The Bermuda Monetary Authority has confirmed rates have risen from 5 to 7.5% between 2022 and 24, reducing household purchasing power by approximately 25%. The cost of living survey, which received 1,419 resident responses and 250 business responses, found that nearly 70% of Bermudians report moderate to extreme financial strain relating to housing, and identified it as a top unaffordable necessity. The Rent Commission and Rent and Consumer Affairs continue to deal with more than 2,300 complaints from landlords and tenants year on year. 59 rent control properties currently listed as vacation rentals, with 52 conversions approved between 2024 and 2025. In the future, they will be visible to the government in one place and for the public to, for the first time, see where the registry is. Mr. Speaker, these are the conditions that demand this response. A market in which mortgage threaten and outpace incomes, in which 10 in 7 Bermudians report moderate to extreme financial strain, in which thousands of disputes go unresolved each year, and in which long-term rentals are quietly being converted into short-term lets. which cannot continue to be governed by a one-year emergency measure from 1971 and a tenancy statute drafted before any of these conditions existed. The registry is required because we cannot regulate or improve what we cannot see. The end of the rent value threshold is required because the families it leaves unprotected have waited long enough. Universal standards are required because the condition of a Bermudian home should never depend on which side of the binary its rent falls under. And these reforms are required now because every year of delay is another year in which Bermudian families absorb costs, live in challenging conditions, and no one comes to check. Another year that a modern legal framework underpinned by transparency does not evolve. Mr. Speaker, what underpins this policy and legislative change is the construction of a fairer system. It's the institutional architecture that will determine whether housing in Bermuda becomes affordable, more accessible, more transparent in the years to come, or whether it does not. This government has chosen deliberately and with care to take the time required to build the architecture properly. The ministry will return to this House with the Consolidated Landlord and Tenant Act, incorporating the broader Landlord and Tenant Act reform and integration of the National Housing Registry framework. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of National Security. Minister?
Crimson and cream today.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues and listening public.
Good morning.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to provide this honorable House and the people of Bermuda with an update on the government's ongoing work in relation to the development of a medical cannabis framework. This initiative reflects a careful, measured, and clinically responsible approach to improving patient access to cannabis-based medicines and medical cannabis products under strict medical supervision and regulatory oversight. Mr. Speaker, for many years, Bermuda's legislative framework has classified cannabis as a controlled drug under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1972. While limited exemptions currently exist for certain cannabis-based medicines, access has remained narrow, administratively complex, and insufficiently structured to meet evolving patient and clinical needs. This government recognizes that there are many people in our community living with serious medical conditions who are seeking additional treatment options under the guidance of their healthcare providers. We are also aware that medical cannabis is one treatment that has grown significantly in usage throughout the world as an alternative to traditional prescriptions. We also recognize that any approach to medical cannabis must be carefully developed, clinically responsible, legally sound, and supported by appropriate safeguards. Mr. Speaker, that is precisely the work now underway. Mr. Speaker, as honorable members will be aware, Cabinet has approved the progression of policy and legislative work to support the establishment of a regulated medical cannabis framework in Bermuda. The objective of this work is straightforward: to examine how Bermuda can create a safe and lawful pathway that improves access for patients with legitimate medical needs, while maintaining robust protections against misuse, diversion, and abuse. As part of that objective, we seek to treat approved cannabis-based medicines and regulated medical cannabis products in the same manner as other controlled prescription medications that may be lawfully prescribed by registered medical practitioners and dispensed through licensed pharmacies. Mr. Speaker, medical cannabis is not a simple policy issue. It sits at the intersection of healthcare regulation, controlled drug legislation, public safety, professional clinical practice, and international legal obligations. As such, this work requires careful coordination across government to ensure that whatever framework ultimately emerges is practical, enforceable, and in the public interest. For that reason, this work is being progressed collaboratively, including engagement between the Ministry of National Security, the Ministry of Health, and the Attorney General's chambers. I hasten to thank my colleagues and their teams at the Ministry of Health and the Attorney General Chambers for their valuable contributions in developing this proposal. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Health brings essential clinical and public health expertise to this work, particularly in relation to patient safety, prescribing oversight, and healthcare regulation. The Attorney General's Chambers is providing critical legal guidance to ensure that any proposed legislative approach is coherent, legally robust, and appropriately aligned with Bermuda's existing statutory framework and international obligations. Mr. Speaker, it is important to be clear with the public on this matter so that there is no confusion about what we are trying to achieve. I, therefore, want to state that this work remains in development and that no final legislative model has been settled, and that is intentional. Mr. Speaker, this framework will be grounded in several important principles. Firstly, medical autonomy. Registered physicians in Bermuda should be able to determine in their professional judgment whether cannabis-based treatment is clinically appropriate for a patient. Secondly, patient protection and access. Bermudians suffering from serious or chronic medical conditions should be able to access approved therapeutic treatments through a safe, lawful, and medically supervised process. Thirdly, public safety and accountability. Any framework permitting medical cannabis must include robust safeguards, clear standards, and effective oversight mechanisms to prevent misuse and ensure proper clinical governance. And fourthly, regulatory consistency. Cannabis-based medicines should be regulated within Bermuda's existing healthcare and controlled drug framework rather than through the creation of a separate or parallel regime. Mr. Speaker, the government's focus at this stage is on getting the framework right rather than moving prematurely toward a predetermined outcome. What is settled, however, is the policy direction. We are seeking an approach that supports legitimate patient access to medical cannabis through proper medical channels, respects clinical judgment, maintains appropriate oversight, and preserves the safeguards necessary to prevent misuse. Mr. Speaker, we are not trying to create unregulated access. Rather, we are developing a framework that ensures responsible access to medical cannabis. Under the proposed system, only registered medical practitioners will be permitted to prescribe approved cannabis products for medical use. Only licensed pharmacies and approved medical institutions will be authorized to import and dispense those products. Direct importation by individual patients will not be permitted. Mr. Speaker, this proposal aligns Bermuda with international best practices and remains fully consistent with our obligations under the United Nations Single Convention on Narcotics Drugs, 1961, which expressly permits the medical and scientific use of cannabis under strict regulatory control. Mr. Speaker, many jurisdictions with comparable legal and healthcare systems, including Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and several Caribbean countries, have already implemented similar medical cannabis frameworks. Bermuda's approach is therefore neither experimental nor reckless. It is cautious, evidence-informed, and centered firmly on healthcare regulation and patient well-being. Mr. Speaker, our aim is to ensure that patients who may genuinely benefit from medically supervised cannabis-based treatment can do so within a clear, lawful, and accountable framework. As this work progresses, we will continue to give careful consideration to regulatory controls, prescribing standards, product quality assurance, importation arrangements, pharmacy oversight, enforcement implications, and broader public health protections. Mr. Speaker, the government appreciates that there is significant public interest in this issue, particularly among patients and families who have been advocating for more treatment options. I assure this Honorable House and the public that we hear these concerns and we understand the urgency felt by many. I hasten to add that we also have a duty to ensure that any framework introduced is feasible, responsible, and sustainable. So, Mr. Speaker, I shall provide further updates to this Honorable House on our progress towards developing the medical cannabis framework. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Tourism, Transport, Culture, and Sport. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to provide this Honorable House with a clear update on government's progress in implementing ride-sharing in Bermuda, and then reaffirm the disciplined, balanced approach we are taking to strengthen transportation access for residents and visitors alike. This initiative is part of government's broader measured plan to modernize Bermuda's transportation system, grounded in evidence, responsive to demand, and carefully structured to support, not destabilize, the existing taxi industry. Mr. Speaker, the guiding principle remains clear and unchanged. Taxis first, rideshare when needed. Ride-sharing is not intended to replace taxis. It will complement the existing system by adding capacity when demand outstrips supply, particularly late at night, on weekends, and during peak visitor periods. In other words, this rollout is deliberate, this rollout is controlled, and this rollout is focused on service reliability. Mr. Speaker, following the passage of the relevant legislative framework, the government opened the ride-sharing application process on the 30th of April, 2026. The application window was initially scheduled to close yesterday, May 14th, at 5 p.m. As of May 14th, yesterday at 5 p.m., we had received 50 applications, an encouraging response that demonstrates public interest. Mr. Speaker, this Honorable House is reminded that ride-sharing permits will be capped at 150 to ensure a controlled rollout and to maintain balance within Bermuda's wider transportation system. Where applications exceeded 150 by the specific deadline, a third-party randomization process was to be used to ensure that the selection was fair and unbiased. Because the cap has not been reached, Mr. Speaker, selection will proceed on a first-come, first-served basis. Mr. Speaker, participation in the rideshare program requires that all operators are properly licensed. Applicants must hold a valid public service vehicle license, and to date, 30 applications have been received from individuals seeking to obtain and renew a public service vehicle license. The majority are from those who are interested in then going ahead and applying for rideshare, Mr. Speaker. The department is actively supporting these applications to complete the required steps so that they can qualify for ride-sharing and then apply. Mr. Speaker, given the level of interest to date, I'm pleased to report that the application process will remain open beyond the deadline that was previously set of May 14th until the full allocation of 150 ride-sharing permits have been issued. This extension provides eligible applicants additional time to complete public service vehicle license requirements and submit their permit applications while ensuring that all interested persons have a fair opportunity to apply. Mr. Speaker, in addition to licensing requirements, applicants must first meet all relevant safety, vetting, and vehicle standards. For clarity and to protect the integrity of this program, persons who hold a license to operate a heavy truck or other commercial vehicle are not eligible to apply for a ride-sharing permit or to operate the approved ride-sharing vehicle. Mr. Speaker, passenger trips will be facilitated through licensed dispatch companies, and ride-sharing services will operate within Bermuda's existing regulatory framework with clear accountability for compliance and enforcement. This initiative is one of the broader transportation modernization programs already underway, including the introduction of digital fare payments through the SureLink platform, real-time tracking of buses and ferries, providing the public with improved visibility and reliability, and continued investment in the public bus and ferry fleet, as well as the advancement of enforcement and compliance measures across the sector. Together, these efforts are improving the overall customer experience, Mr. Speaker, strengthening the resilience of Bermuda's public transportation system. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that the taxi industry has been a cornerstone of Bermuda's transportation system and an important part of our economy. That is precisely why this model has been designed to support, not undermine, the existing industry. The taxi's first approach, the permit cap, and the strong regulatory safeguards ensure a balanced implementation that prioritizes service, safety, as well as fairness. Mr. Speaker, ultimately this work is about delivering practical results. Shorter wait times when demand spikes, more certainty for residents trying to get home safely and at night, and more reliable experience for our visitors, while maintaining a controlled system that respects the role of taxis. Subject to final operational readiness, the government is targeting the launch of rideshare services with the first group of approved operators on or around June 10th. As we move into the next phase, this Honorable House and the public will receive further updates on permit allocation, operational milestones, and the commencement of service. Our focus remains on delivering a system that is safe, fair, and responsive, one that improves access, strengthens confidence in public transportation, and meets the needs of Bermuda's residents and visitors alike. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement is also in the name of the same minister. Minister, would you like to proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I can just have 1 second.
Right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to announce the Grand Marshals for the 2026 Bermuda Day Parade, a group of outstanding individuals whose lives and contributions reflect the very spirit of this year's Heritage Month theme, For the Culture. Mr. Speaker, as I shared previously, For the Culture is a celebration of the people, the traditions, and the creative expressions that define Bermuda. It speaks to the pride that we carry, the stories that we tell, and the responsibility we share to preserve and uplift our cultural identity. It is both a reflection of who we are and a call to continue building on that legacy. Mr. Speaker, each year, the selection of Grand Marshals provides an opportunity to honor individuals whose contributions have shaped Bermuda's culture in meaningful and lasting ways, often without widespread recognition. These individuals who have worked with consistency, passion, and quiet impact, building, preserving, and strengthening our culture and community over time. In recognizing them, we ensure that their influence is not only acknowledged, but celebrated as an essential part of Bermuda's history. Mr. Speaker, it is my honor to announce the 2026 Bermuda Day Parade Grand Marshals for the Culture. Mr. Speaker, Tamika Tiny T. Tacklin is a standout presence in Bermuda's cultural identity. As a young girl, she famously found her way into Richardson's Gumbies as the troupe's only female member, beginning a lifelong connection to Bermuda's traditions through dance and performance. She later represented Bermuda internationally as a dancer and gained national recognition after winning Bermuda's first Dancehall Queen competition. Her work extends far beyond performance into entrepreneurship and youth development, creating spaces where creativity, confidence, and culture can thrive. Through her continued efforts, she has shown what it means to live and lead for the culture. Mr. Speaker, Jules Roberts, the voice and spirit behind the Ito Foundation, has been a cornerstone of Bermuda's reggae movement for decades. Since the late 1970s, his music has carried messages of unity, resistance, and cultural pride. Rooted in Rastafarian spirituality, his songs tell stories, struggles, and experiences of everyday Bermudians in the tradition of griot, using music to preserve and share the voice of the people. As both a performer and a mentor, he has shaped generations of musicians and ensured that Bermuda's voice continues to be heard through the universal language of music. Mr. Speaker, Tawana Lee, my former classmate, has dedicated her life to preserving and strengthening Bermuda's majorette and drum corps tradition. Through her leadership of the PHC Majorette Group and Drum Corps, she has built not only a performance group, but a community grounded in discipline, inclusion, and pride. At a time when many majorette groups across Bermuda have faded away, Tawana continued to carry the tradition forward, ensuring that majorette culture remained visible, vibrant, and alive for a new generation. Her commitment to youth development and cultural education has ensured that this cherished part of Bermuda's heritage continues to grow and inspire future generations. Mr. Speaker, Sonia Smith, a distinguished figure in Bermuda's sporting history, whose achievements in track and field have left a lasting mark on our island. From a young age, she demonstrated exceptional talent, setting national records in javelin and earning multiple medals in the Carifta Games. She went on to represent Bermuda at major international competitions, including the Commonwealth Games as well as the Olympic Games. Her dedication, discipline, and achievement continue to inspire generations of Bermudian athletes to pursue excellence in sport. Mr. Speaker, we take this moment to honor the late Alan Warner, a legendary gumbe whose influence continues to resonate across Bermuda. From a young age, he dedicated himself to the art of gumbes, leading Warner's Gumbes for over 5 decades with passion and integrity. His work as a performer, mentor, and cultural ambassador helped to preserve and elevate this vital tradition, leaving a legacy that he continues to guide and inspire. Mr. Speaker, these 5 individuals may come from different paths and different disciplines, but they are united by a shared commitment to community and cultural pride. They epitomize this year's theme, For the Culture, through the way that they have preserved traditions, uplifted others, and contributed meaningfully to the cultural and sporting life of Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Culture looks forward to celebrating these Grand Marshals alongside all participants during the Bermuda Day Parade, which is 1 week from today, Friday, May 22nd, 2026. This year's parade will once again bring our streets to life with color, sound, and creativity, with more than 60 participating entries, reflecting the energy and diversity of our people. After receiving rave reviews last year, the parade once again will conclude in the traditional fashion with the gumbes, followed by a 30-minute intermission before the celebrations continue with an after party featuring a high-flying, high-energy soca truck. Mr. Speaker, the department has also worked closely with participants and stakeholders this year to strengthen the parade flow. We're also going to strengthen the parade pacing and the overall event management to improve the experience for participants as well as spectators alike. As participation continues to grow, these efforts are important to ensure that Bermuda Day remains safe, enjoyable, and full of energy and spirit that our people have come to love. Mr. Speaker, I encourage all Bermudians to come out, support our participants, and show up for the culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Works. Minister?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning to the listening audience. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to provide this honorable House and the people of Bermuda with an update on major infrastructure works and public improvement projects being delivered across our island. Over the past year serving in this role, I have come to appreciate that much of government's work is not always immediately visible to the public. Infrastructure projects often move forward quietly through planning, coordination, procurement, repairs, and steady execution long before the result can be seen and fully appreciated. At the same time, the people of Bermuda quite rightly expect to know what is being delivered and what practical difference these projects will make in their daily lives. That understanding continues to shape the Ministry of Public Works and Environment's approach with a focus on disciplined delivery, clear oversight, and consistent communication. Over recent months, this government has continued making meaningful investments in Bermuda's public infrastructure, whether in healthcare, roads, docks, public buildings, water infrastructure, or recreational facilities. The Ministry of Public Works and Environment remains focused on delivering improvements that Bermudians can see and benefit from in their daily lives. Mr. Speaker, during the recent royal visit, His Majesty the King officially opened the new St. David's Coast Guard Station. This project represents not only an important investment in Bermuda's maritime response capability, but also the successful repurposing of an underutilized government facility into infrastructure that now serves as a practical and national important purpose. The building itself is now ready for occupation, with final dock works continuing. Mr. Speaker, the restoration of the Mangrove Bay Clinic in Sands similarly reflects this government's commitment to revitalizing public assets and returning essential services to communities. The building has now been returned to its healthcare function and transformed into a modern facility that will once again provide important community services to residents in the West. Physical works began in May of 2025, and the project is now substantively complete. Final operational items remain underway, and the clinic is anticipated to open in June of this year, subject to the confirmation by the Ministry of Health. Mr. Speaker, significant progress has also been made in improving community and recreational infrastructure across the island. Repairs to the docks at Whites Island and Ports Island were completed ahead of the summer season, alongside additional maintenance works at several public dock facilities to support safe public access and recreational use. In the East, the Ministry, together with the Bermuda Land Management Corporation, recently opened a new 24-hour water truck outlet at Carters Bay Road in Southside. This facility will reduce travel times for water operators servicing the St. David's and St. George's while easing pressure on the central water distribution network. Mr. Speaker, this is something many within the water trucking industry has been requesting for some time, and it is something the government is proud to have delivered. Continuing in the East, the upgraded public boat ramp at Stonecrusher Corner has now been completed and reopened in time for the powerboat racing season, supporting both community recreation and one of Bermuda's long-standing sporting traditions. Importantly, the upgraded facility will also support operational access for the Royal Bermuda Regiment Coast Guard and improve functionality for marine response activities in the area. Mr. Speaker, this government is also continuing to advance major national infrastructure projects that will shape Bermuda for decades to come. The request for proposal process for the replacement of Swing Bridge is now officially underway, with contractors invited to bid on this critical national project. This marks a major milestone and an important step towards the eventual construction of a modern replacement bridge that will improve reliability, resilience, and connectivity for residents and businesses in the East End. Earlier this month, the ministry hosted a networking event connected to the project, bringing together local contractors and prospective international bidders as part of the government's commitment to ensuring meaningful local participation in a major infrastructure investment. Mr. Speaker, important progress is also being made in preserving and upgrading public buildings and government infrastructure. At Government House, significant works have recently been completed, including roof repairs, electrical upgrades, water storage improvements, kitchen upgrades, and restoration works within the historic property. At Sessions House, work is continuing to support the long-term restoration and modernization of this important parliamentary building. Arrangements have now been completed to advance renovation planning and prepare the way for the formal procurement phase of the project. I can also advise this Honorable House that following the upcoming Bermuda Day holiday, the next phase of work will commence with internal demolition and preparatory works within the building as part of the broader restoration effort. Mr. Speaker, while major capital projects often receive the greatest public attention, much of the ministry's work takes place every day within communities across Bermuda. Over the past few months, numerous smaller but important infrastructure improvements have been completed across the island. These include new safety railings and fencing at Mullet Bay Park, Cooks Hill, and Mangrove Bay Road, new bus shelters at Clearwater Beach, Texas Road, and Malabar Road, additional pedestrian safety beacons near King Edward Memorial Hospital and the Bermuda Athletic Association. Road paving and improvement works have also been completed in several areas, including Verdmont Road, the Flats area, Orange Valley Road, and Spanish Point. In addition to these completed works, several projects remain actively underway, including Grotto Bay bus lay-by expansion and associated sidewalk and traffic infrastructure works. These works will not only assist with better traffic flow, but also improve safety measures for pedestrians. The ministry has also made significant improvements to the water network that services communities such as Cedar Park and Mary Victoria. This includes replacing aging pipeline infrastructure and upgrades designed to improve reliability and overall service delivery to residents in these areas. This work is still ongoing, but we are making steady progress. Mr. Speaker, while meaningful progress is being made, I fully acknowledge that there is still much more work ahead. Bermudians continue to expect improvements to roads, public facilities, and infrastructure across the island, and rightly so. Capital projects do not happen overnight, but this government remains committed to steadily moving the country forward through practical action and continued investment. This government remains committed to investing responsibly in public infrastructure, modernizing critical assets, and ensuring taxpayers see visible results from those investments. We are making progress. We are improving Bermuda's infrastructure, and we will continue doing so. We will continue doing the work necessary to build a stronger and more resilient Bermuda. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, that brings us to a close of the statements for this morning. We'll now move on to the next item on the order paper, which is reports of committees, and there are none. The next item is the question period. Before I go on to the question period, I'd just like to acknowledge in the gallery this morning former Senator and former AG, Mr. Phil Parent-Chief. Nice to have you in the chamber today, sir. Good. All right. And this morning, I read off the acknowledgments of members who had communicated with us. I omitted mentioning that Jamal Simmons had also indicated his absence today, so I just want that noted. We'll now move on to the question period. And this morning we have written questions, which we'll begin with, and then we'll move on to the questions from the statements that were written this morning. The first in the written questions this morning, and for the listening audience and for the members and the visitors in the gallery, the written questions just require two responses, either a written response, which is sent to the given to the opposition member who asked, or a oral response, which is we all participate here. The first three questions this morning are all seeking written responses. The first is to the Junior Minister of Justice and Spokesman for Education. The question was asked from the opposition leader, Mr. Ben Smith. Have you received the written questions?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The second question is also to the same Junior Minister and Spokesman for Education, but those questions, the answers are being carried over for a later date. Thank you. The third question this morning, requiring a written response, is to the Minister of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors, and that is from the MP Taka. MP Taka, have you received your written responses?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the next series of questions, and they are all seeking an oral response. And the first written question that requires an oral response is from MP Douglas Ikuda. Would you like to put your question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. These questions are to the Honorable Minister Hayward, Minister of Economy and Labor.
Yes.
Will the Honorable Minister please explain to this Honorable House why youth unemployment almost tripled from 3.4% in November 2024 to 9.3% in May 2025, as reported by the May 2025 Labor Force Survey? Thank you.
Thank you. Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the Labor Force Survey does not capture the factors surrounding the movement of numbers. It simply provides the trend of the numbers presented.
Okay. You have a supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, supplementary. Is this House to understand that the Minister does not know why the youth unemployment tripled? Thank you.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, my responsibility is to provide statements of fact. The only way of knowing statements of fact would be if the survey captured that particular information. I can speak to correlations, I can speak to reasons why. For example, when youth unemployment dropped from when it was at over 30% and then fell down to underneath 10%, there was a number of factors, including youth getting more employment opportunities in Bermuda, youth being provided with more scholarships. All of those are correlations, they're not fact. And so what we want to do is ensure that we provide factual information, and the survey doesn't capture the information why one is now unemployed where they would have been employed in the previous reporting period.
Okay. Second sub?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, second supplemental. If the Minister cannot explain the rise in the youth unemployment, how does he expect the government to properly craft its policies to address the increase in youth unemployment?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, we deliberately put a youth employment strategy in place. The youth employment strategy was to tackle youth unemployment. We looked at a number of factors why youth were unemployed at the particular time when we put out the strategy, and we provided goals associated with that. And so we will continue to support our young people. I think that's the most important question that can possibly ask. What is the government doing to support the young people of Bermuda? And if that question was actually asked, I will be able to provide factual information as to the work that the Bermuda government is doing to support our young persons in transitioning into employment.
Thank you. Supplemental?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just trying to qualify a previous answer that he gave, the minister was able to answer and qualify why employment increased for youth, and give not just fact but qualifying statements to it. Why can't we get qualifying statements to why it went down? He's able to do it for the increase of employment. Why can't we not get or did we not correlate some facts to why? I mean, facts are only gotten because you're correlating information together. We should be able to get some form of idea why.
Your question is, why can't he provide the other? I'm trying to
Yes,
get
yeah. My question is if we can give qualification to a fact for the increase of employment for youth, why can we not do it also for the increase in unemployment for the youth?
Statement of fact. The data presented in the May 2025 and May 2024 labor force survey reports must be interpreted with a technical caution. That is written in the report, as direct comparisons between non-seasonally adjusted survey periods may lead to misleading conclusions. That is the word I don't want to go down today. Provide us with misleading conclusions. But the reality remains that there are more youth unemployed in this survey period than in previous survey periods. To what extent that is alarming, we will continue to provide the support to our youth that is actually required. But when we look at global youth unemployment rates, they average around 12.5%. Our youth unemployment rate is 9%, and so we are still lower than the global average. From an area of concern, the Department of Workforce Development will continue to execute on its youth employment strategy to support bridges to employment for our young people.
Question.
Supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, considering what the minister has just said, will he take it upon himself, and maybe it's too early because he just got the facts, to qualify why he sees this happening? Again, we go back to the original question that I asked. It would be good to understand the variables because we're trying to fix it. If we just go off of a number, numbers speak to what's going on. It's not just a fact. The numbers are saying something, but the numbers are qualifying that there's something real human going on, whether it's process, whether we have less people, all of these things. And I'm hoping that the minister can give us an action. Can he give us more qualification as to why in the future, because I'm sure he has to get more information, as to why we see this happening, a tripling of the unemployment for youth? That's the question in the beginning. Can he in the future give us a qualifying
In the future,
answer?
can he
Yes,
provide
because he
some-
needs
some
more
future
information. I take it.
Okay.
I gather that.
You're saying you understand he doesn't have the information now, but would he undertake in the future to
Yes.
provide something for you?
Yes.
Typically, the labor force surveys is accompanied by a statement. To the extent that I have the information, I will actually provide it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Minister. MP Dakuda, that was the conclusion of your first question. Would you like to put your second question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honorable Minister please explain to this Honorable House why, according to the May 2025 Labor Force Survey, the non-Bermudian median income rose 28.1% from November 2024 to May 2025, but the Bermudian median income decreased minus 1.3%? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I believe the statement that the answer that I provided in the past holds now in terms of we do not have the data regarding why these factors have occurred. But what I would say is it is interesting when the opposition craftily picks indicators out of an entire report of numbers to provide.
Point of order. Mr. Speaker, point of order.
Wait.
Yeah, what's going on?
The member hadn't even finished this point yet. Let him finish. Let him finish what he's saying first. Let him finish what he's saying. Let him finish. Yeah, Minister.
There are a plethora of positive trends in that particular report, including the fact that we have statistical full employment in Bermuda, and we are maintaining one of the lowest unemployment rates across any region. The survey would also show that our youth unemployment rates are lower than global average, and so there's a statement of facts. And as much as we can possibly provide the factors as to why those trends occur, we will provide this.
Supplementary?
Does the minister accept that if they are not able to understand why Bermudian pay is decreasing while non-Bermudian pay is increasing a lot, nobody should have any confidence, including this House or the general public, that the plans they put into place will actually address those issues, if the government doesn't even know why they're happening in the first place? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, that is incorrect. What he's looked at is simply one factor, and is making a comparison, the same comparison that the technical note in the labor force survey asks us not to make and be cautious about making. And he's fell into that trap. You know why? Because it's politically convenient for him to highlight
Point of
that.
order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order.
Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Point of
The
order.
minister is both impugning a proper motive and also misleading the House. Number one, it's not politically convenient to have a discussion about why Bermudians are making less money while non-Bermudians are making more money, because I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, if it went the other way, there would have been press conferences galore when this report went out. Second, regarding the seasonality adjustment, I carefully looked at it, and there was no seasonal trend that explains these between the May and the November. Okay? It's not a seasonal adjustment issue, in my personal view, as someone who has practiced professionally
Point of order, Mr.
in the
Speaker.
practice
Points
of
of order, Mr.
statistics
Speaker.
and
Point of order,
trained.
Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The standing orders specifically state that we discuss facts. The honorable cannot get up on a point of order where the minister has quoted from a statistical document and say, in my opinion, he doesn't agree with it. Come on now.
Mr. Speaker, I've done a fact.
Wait, one minute. The minister has gone to great lengths to try and state that what he's referring to is the factual information that was provided from the report. The report doesn't produce the whys and the hows, my word, but it does produce what he is given is the facts of the outcome of the report, factually, and the date. It isn't an opinion, it isn't a viewpoint, it's the facts of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are not actually about the report. My questions are about the reasons which the minister.
Point of order,
was
Mr.
unable to
Speaker.
answer.
No, point of order, Mr. Speaker. The honorable member was not recognized, and he took his seat by you.
No, I did look at him just now. I did acknowledge him.
But, Mr. Speaker, may I ask as to what reason he's on his feet? Is he asking questions, or is he still giving a statement?
Take your seat and I'll do what I gotta do. Sit down. Sit down, Speaker, please.
I accept that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm rising on a point of order, Mr.
No,
Speaker.
address your point of order.
Sorry?
I'll address your point
Thank
of
you,
order.
Mr.
I
Speaker.
said I'll address it. I acknowledged him because he had put a question on his point of order that we stopped him on. And I acknowledged him only that he was going to either withdraw his statement that this point of order or better clarify his point of order. Because we told him it was based on the facts, and if his point of order can raise something factual, he can continue. If it isn't, then he can't go on. So he was just given the opportunity to see if he could factually put his point of order. That's all it was, because we pointed out that this was based on responses from the minister, it's based on factual information. If he can come with a factual point of order, it'll be acknowledged. If he can't, then there isn't. So I was giving him that opportunity just to clean it up, but it didn't happen. Okay? If you can factually put a point of order, you have the floor. If not,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had used commonly accepted statistical techniques according to my professional training and the numbers provided in the report to identify
factually to the report.
to identify that it is not a seasonal issue driving these results that I've asked.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
I'm being it has to be related directly to the state of the report. And that's where we're getting caught up on other aspects that you're trying to bring into it versus the factuality of the report. My suggestion at this point would be let's just move on so that we can get to something that may be more factual in what you're seeking to find. Okay? Good. Now, you still have a second question.
Second supplemental.
Yeah. Okay. You still have no, this is on the supplementary. He asked one supplementary. You still have a second supplementary on that. Would you like to put a second supplementary or move on to the third question?
I have a second supplemental, Mr.
Is it
Speaker.
factually related to the report?
It is related to the question as written on the order paper, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you. I believe the government would agree with us that the trends identified in the question are disturbing. Does the government currently have any specific plans to adjust those trends in Bermudian pay versus non-Bermudian pay as outlined in the original question? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Understood?
We accept that there shouldn't be disparities as it pertains to the trends of Bermudian pay and non-Bermudian pay. We have alternative statistical reports which will show us that Bermudian pay is progressing within society, and that this may be a result of sampling rather than actual things that are taking place within our society, because we have alternative data that comes from employee compensation, which we can clearly see that employee income is trending above inflation. We also note that the vast majority of public servants would have received pay increases, and the vast majority of public servants are Bermudians. And so from that particular standpoint as well, we know that the salary of those individuals would increase. We will also be making revisions to the minimum wage, and we've seen the minimum wage increase. And so when you look at all of the additional information, you can clearly see that there has been a progression in the salary of Bermudian pay. And where the salaries haven't progressed, the government has reduced taxes on those individuals, so the purchasing power does remain higher.
Okay. That was your second sub. Would you now like to move on to your third question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will work hard so that we don't retread old ground here.
That'll be helpful.
Yes. Yes. Will the Honorable Minister please explain for this Honorable House why, according to the May 2025 Labor Force Survey, the underemployment rate increased from 7.8% in November 2024 to 8.4% in May 2025?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the data presented in May 2025 and November 2024 Labor Force Survey reports must be interpreted with a technical caution, as direct comparisons between non-seasonally adjusted survey periods may lead to misleading conclusions. But here is a factual trend. When the government puts out positive information, the opposition remains silent. When the
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Just the honorable members misleading the House. We had a statement given this morning where I verbally.
Let him finish it. Let him finish. He might have been. Let him finish his point. Yeah, finish your point, Minister.
For example, when quarterly GDP increased by 9.9%, there was no public statement made by the opposition. However, when GDP abated by just under 1%, there was a public statement made by the opposition stating that the economic development strategy did not work. I just want to highlight the trend of cherry picking information for political convenience.
Okay. Before you, Minister, we appreciate the comment, but let's not throw the political points in between. The points that you raised were spot on, but we need a political piece out of it, please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
MP,
I have a supplemental, but
put your supplementary.
you did give the minister some leeway, and if the minister's not happy with the job being done by the Department of Communication and Information Services, I'm sure I'd be happy to take a meeting with him and give him some advice, Mr. Speaker. I note that
Put your supplementary now.
my supplementaries. I note that in previous answers to my supplementaries, the minister quoted quite a few supporting facts and figures at his hands as a minister, and I wonder if he might be able to apply a similar range of facts and figures that he referred to already today towards the explanation of this increase in the underemployment rate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Some more facts and figures you're seeking. That was the question. That was the question.
Certainly. When we put out the information, it's important for us to understand the trends. Once we understand the trends, you understand the factors underlying the particular trends. You also have a clear understanding of what underemployment is and what underemployment isn't. And so underemployment can be qualitative and a very subjective measure. Unemployment can come from someone who is seeking a promotion within their job and hasn't got a promotion yet. Unemployment can also come from somebody who is got a job in has a decent job in a decent occupational category, but seeks to work in an alternative occupational category. And as a result, they will be listed as underemployed because they're not working in the primary job in which they desire. And so unemployment will always exist because there's a mismatch between the exact jobs that are desired by residents within a population and the jobs that are provided in your economy.
Thank you. Supplementary? None. That brings us to a close of the questions as submitted by MP Dakuda. The next written question that sought a oral response is from MP Robertson to the Minister of the Cabinet. MP?
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues, and to the listening audience. Will the Honorable Minister please provide this Honorable House with an update on the Electoral Reform Working Group, as the stated date for its formation was March 30th, 2026?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, thank the honorable member for that question, because this is a very important bipartisan topic that we are talking about. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I provided a full public update on the government's electoral reform work, and I confirmed that while March 30th target for forming the working group has passed, the work has still continued. The ministry has used the additional time to strengthen the foundation of the group's work. That includes further consultation, operational review, election experience surveys issued to members and candidates, lessons from observing the recent Bahamas general election, and specialized policy preparation on campaign and election finance. The working group is now ready to move to formal appointments. This group will include representation from the Parliamentary Registrar's Office, the government, the opposition, and young Bermudians, supported with relevant and technical policy expertise. The target for tabling the legislation remains September 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. Supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The scheduled timing for when this working group was going to be established was quoted as imminent. So I just wanted to ask in my supplementary, could the Honorable Minister provide a clearer timetable with a potential date as to when this working group will be appointed?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, as detailed yesterday, the appointment of the group is imminent. We'll be sending out letters next week. It's anticipated that the group will be between 5 and 10 persons. We anticipate the work will take between 4 to 6 weeks, and we do intend to have a very aggressive timeline for how and when that group would meet and the typical milestones that we expect from them.
Supplement, second sub?
Yes, I thank the Honorable Minister for that question. For that answer, yes. Thank you, Deputy. First day back. Can I ask a follow-up supplementary as to a bit more clarity as to the makeup of this potential electoral reform working group? I heard the minister list a few things in the press conference, but I guess my supplementary is, if those qualifications are not met, i.e. if people do not accept the invitation or people do not apply, what then happens to the progress date of September 2026? Thank you.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the progress date of September 2026 remains, and we will adhere to forming this working group. If we do not get members, so for example, if the opposition does not nominate anyone, that will not stop us moving forward.
All right, those are your two subs. The next written question that needs an oral response is also from MP Robertson. MP, would you like to put your questions to the Minister of Home Affairs?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House on the state of the draft bill, the Landlord-Tenant Act 2025, as consultation concluded October 31st, 2025?
Some of that may have been covered in the statement this morning, but go ahead, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his question. I did endeavour to comprehensively provide an update to the public and to this House relating to the ministry's status on the landlord and tenant and the associated reforms. And so it is eminent, having just recently had Cabinet consider a second iteration of the policies evolution.
Supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It seems my parliamentary questions are getting scooped this time with a press conference and a statement preceding them. My supplementary for this question is, we heard again imminent, but could we have a prospective timetable for the listening audience and for us on when these reforms will be before the House of Assembly?
Minister?
I thank the honourable member for the question, and I recognize both to the public and also regarding the honourable member's question that it is something that the public is seeking to have delivered, and it is with full anticipation that we will follow the consultative process, ensure that it's thoughtful. It is large pieces of legislation that we're consolidating into a modern piece of legislation to match the current times of our housing and rental market, and so we do anticipate that it will be in June to be able to get to consultation and revise it thereafter.
Second sub? No, thank you. Members, the next written question that seeks an oral response is from MP Robinson again to the Minister of Works. Minister, this is okay. Proceed, MP Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honourable Minister please provide this Honourable House with an update regarding the upkeep and maintenance planned for the Gibbs Hill Lighthouse?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Yes, there's no press conference for this one. Or statement. The ministry is currently carrying out maintenance works at Gibbs Hill Lighthouse as part of its ongoing preservation program. Repairs to the lighthouse beacon are awaiting replacement of the roof, which is expected to take place during the painting contract for which we just closed an RFP. Additional work to replace the railing with stronger and more durable fixtures will also take place at that time. It's important to note that the coordination of these projects is important, largely due to the scaffolding required. We want to make sure we have everything in hand, ready, and in order first. But minor maintenance is also being completed on the restaurant's fire alarm system. While a tenant remains in place, the reopening date will depend on the completion of the safety requirements and operational readiness. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable Minister for that answer. I just wanted to get a perspective, because I know a lot of moving pieces are happening, but a perspective timeline, or could the Minister endeavor to provide a perspective timeline for these maintenance and upkeep? Because as the MP of the area, I will be asked. So if it's possible, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Minister?
Again, I completely understand, and I figured that was the root of the question. But, Mr. Speaker, very difficult to be boxed myself in and give a specific date. But I think it would be reasonable to assume that the works at the very beginning will start this summer.
Thank you. Second sub?
Yes, thank you for that. My second supplementary is just regarding safety when it comes to the Gibbs Hill Lighthouse, as we had some unfortunate events transpire up there. Could the minister highlight in these maintenance projects an increased security for the upper part of the lighthouse? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. That brings us to a conclusion of the question there. The next written question with all responses from MP Linda Smith, again to the Minister of Works. MP Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, accepting that casuarina trees are categorized as invasive species, will the Honorable Minister please provide this Honorable House with the reason why Penhurst Park in Smiths Parish is now being cleared of several large old trees and other horticultural that has provided welcome cover and shade in that park, particularly on the western boundary fence line with the property that's owned by Link to Bermuda?
Minister?
I want to thank the honourable member for her question. Mr. Speaker, next week I will be meeting with environmental stakeholder groups, and I certainly would welcome their thoughts when they realize that the OBA is questioning why the government is removing invasive species. Nonetheless, the removal of casuarina trees at Penthouse Park was undertaken as part of the department's ongoing management of Bermuda's parks and open spaces. Casuarinas are recognized as an invasive species that can prevent native vegetation from growing and negatively impact the long-term health of the environment. Their removal is intended to support the gradual restoration of native plant life within the park. The trees removed were in a dense interior section of the park, away from the main recreational areas used by the public. This work was not connected to any development activity, but rather formed part of a responsible environmental management and park maintenance.
Supplementary?
Yes, and I just wanted to say that I think everybody's aware that casuarinas are an invasive species, and I wasn't asking specifically about the invasive species. I'm actually asking about the clearing of horticulture, particularly in connection with the fence line of Link Bermuda, and the anticipation that that is in relationship to equipment that will be going in on the Link Bermuda property, and that the park is being cleared for sight lines.
What was the question? What was the question? What was your question? What was your question there? Yeah.
Is the park being cleared to accommodate equipment for Link Bermuda?
Minister?
I believe I gave a substantive response to the question, Mr. Speaker.
The action was because you get an invasive species.
Correct. And what we're doing it for.
Okay. Second sub.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you to the minister. How long will this work be going on in terms of clearing the park, and what is it anticipated that, how much clearing is anticipated in terms of the invasive species that will be coming out, and what is the timeline for that work?
You need to repeat a part of it? Is it you good?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I repeat that this is part of the parks' ongoing management of Bermuda's parks and open spaces. So the answer is that this is an ongoing process.
Okay. Thank you. Those are your two supplementaries. Would you like to move on to your next question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the honorable member, the honorable minister, please inform this honorable House whether the ministry has received any complaints, reports, or investigated any incidents relating to sewage, wastewater, discolored water, or other possible marine pollution in the waters over the past 6 months, and what findings or actions resulted from those investigations?
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again, I thank the honorable member for her questions. I will say that complaints related to pollution on the sea are not reported to the Ministry of Public Works and Environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary?
No, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Members, that brings us to a conclusion of answers to written questions. We'll now move on in the time that's left to questions that have arisen out of the statements that were given this morning. And Premier, your statement on the constitutional reform has a question from MP King. MP King?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Speaker, members of this honorable House and the listening public. Regarding the proposed amendments and work that's going to be done on constitutional reform, would the honorable Premier please inform the House what specific constitutional deficiency the government believes exists within Bermuda's governance framework that require constitutional reform? Thank you.
Premier?
Mr. Speaker, I'll do my best to be polite, but given the line of questioning today, I'm not in the mood. The honorable member was the leader.
I know you know how to be big enough.
I
to
will.
rise above
The
this.
honorable
We
member
expect you to rise
was the
above
leader
this.
of the opposition at the point in time when a throne speech was given in which it actually laid out what the constitutional change the government is seeking. So I'll refer the honorable member to the throne speech which was given and the one prior.
Supplementary? Supplementary?
Next question, Mr. Speaker.
Next question.
Will the honorable Premier please state whether the proposed constitutional reform will include amendments regarding the powers of the Premier, Cabinet Authority, constitutional responsibilities to include the police, DPP, judiciary, and independent oversight bodies.
Premier?
If the honorable member would have read the statement, he would know that we're consulting on the process, and there's an entire thing that's laid out where anyone, including him, will be able to make whatever suggestions he may wish to do so.
Supplementary.
Next question, Mr. Speaker. Would the Honorable Premier please inform this Honorable House whether the reform proposals are intended to strengthen or reduce mechanisms for transportation, transparency, anti-corruption, and enforcement, and public accountability? Thank you.
Refer the honorable member to the answer I gave moments ago.
Supplementary? Okay. Thank you. That was the only question for that statement. Premier, your second statement also has questions, and MP Campbell, would you like to put your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's always good news when the rating agencies provide positive feedback. What I would like to know is the Premier aware of any incidences where any Bermudian has been able to use positive credit ratings to buy food or medication?
Premier?
Mr. Speaker, the question does not deserve an answer. That's the reality. Because this is actually serious business, and an honorable member like that who actually is supposed to run a local company should know better.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The member is impugning improper motive on behalf of my colleague, and I would paraphrase, if you want to put my colleague's, wording a different way, because of course we like to come and we have to come here and at least get through the day sometimes with this government, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, my colleague's intent is that these financial ratings reflect only, Mr. Speaker, to the capability of Bermuda to pay the people it borrows money from, of which it borrowed too much, so much that we are $1 billion in debt, and the Premier wants to pat himself on the back for
Point of
paying
order,
the debt.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Take a seat. Take a seat. Take a seat.
This continues.
Take a seat. 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 Members, when you raise a point of order, it has to be specific to the comment that was made, and not a dissertation on a different viewpoint of trying to support what was there, but it has to be on the comment that was made. Okay? You got a little leeway on that. MP Campbell, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I have a supplemental.
Okay. Can you put your supplementary?
Is the Premier, has he encountered anyone who has successfully used positive credit ratings to pay for rent or their mortgage?
I think that was similar on the line of your earlier question. The response to that basically is going to be that the ratings, as we all know, don't necessarily impact the point of line of question that you're putting, which is what he was trying to respond to your earlier question, hoping that this time your question would change its turn.
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking these questions with the purpose that the government stands up and says we're doing an excellent job based on these credit ratings, and my questions are designed to see if those credit ratings, that positive performance is actually impacting the people of Bermuda.
Mr. Speaker, so I will answer the question of which the honorable member has asked, because it is actually, for me, and Mr. Speaker, I have the right to express my opinion as a parliamentarian in the answer to the question. It is actually offensive and degrading of this honorable House, the line of questioning that has come from members of the opposition today. That is my view and my opinion, Mr. Speaker, because that honorable member knows clear well of the impact that ratings agencies have inside of a jurisdiction. The honorable member is clearly aware of that, but he is rising and stooping to a level, in my opinion, that does not befit the honorable members of this House. So let me answer the question, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order,
The
Mr.
reality
Speaker.
is,
Point of
Mr.
order,
Speaker,
Mr. Speaker. The
Point of
Premier
order.
and Minister of Finance is impugning improper motive.
Well, based on, let me make a comment so we don't go back and forth. Based on the question that was put earlier, clearly the rating doesn't impact in the way that the question was asked. The rating states the standard of the country, what the country is looking at, but not what the country rating has been, but not necessarily what the impact of buying groceries are, to put it in my term of what your first question was at. The second, and so the turn that was sought was one that will speak to the impact of the rating itself, or how the rating impacts Bermuda in its overall, because that's what the rating looks like, and not the individual. Now, you want to respond to the
I'm
question?
trying to finish answer the question, Mr. Speaker. That was a point of order that he interrupted. I'm not imputing improper motive. He went on his line, and I'm going to give my response. That's their favorite thing to say, imputing improper motive, because it's like they can't take it.
Just sit down, Mr. Getner.
You know I'm going to get him on
the
that.
line or that line you can withdraw. And you started on a good word that time. You slipped one word in there. Just leave out that favorite line of what you just said. Leave that out, please.
Mr. Speaker, they've had multiple occasions of where they say imputing improper motive. That is what they give. That's a factual statement, Mr. Speaker. That is what they do. So here we go, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is what they claim. But anyhow, Mr. Speaker, I'll wait, because I want to make sure they can hear the question, the answer to the question they ask.
Speak to me. Speak to me. Yeah, speak to me.
I'll wait.
No, I'm ready to hear.
Thank you very much, but I can't think because there's too much noise going
I
on.
know you can speak. You speak to me. Look at me and speak directly to me, and you can ignore that. Go ahead. Come right in.
Just make sure they're ready to listen, Mr. Speaker.
Listen. I'm listening. That's the key. I'm listening.
So here's the fact, Mr. Speaker. The question that was asked was regarding mortgage rates. The question that was asked regarding food. In this statement itself, we talk about the fact that good financial performance allows us to give relief, reduce taxes, make sure that we can provide things such as mortgage guarantee programs and other matters. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because we have strong and sound fiscal management. The honorable member knows that. He's just trying to cause issues.
Okay, all right.
He's trying.
All right, keep it on line.
Yeah, you see that?
Okay.
Oh, don't worry, I got my line of length. He's just trying, Mr. Speaker, and that's the reality.
Right.
But everyone in this country knows that it's a good thing. The challenge that the honorable member has, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that this government has now seen a credit rating increase when the party he has now joined presided over 2 decreases in the country's credit rating. We are turning things around, and we're going to continue to press forward. And for that, Mr. Speaker, I think the entire country can be proud.
Any supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, it's interesting that the Premier believes that I'm asking these questions for the reason that he stated. However, I will just say that the Premier also knows that in spite of these ratings, that the average daily experience of Bermudians does not reflect a positive mood. And I'll finish with that, Mr. Speaker.
We
Thank
need
you.
a question. No question? No question. Well, okay. All right. Okay. Premier, members will now move on. The next statement that has a question is a statement from the Minister of Cabinet in reference, his first statement in reference to the city vacancies, and that's from Opposition Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I feel like I'm walking on glass right now.
Keep your shoes on.
So I was glad to hear that the occupancy dropped from 15% to 10%, which is a very positive thing. It's a great outlook going forward. But I was just curious, and I'm not sure if this is in the wheelhouse here, but for planning department and looking at the stats, has he noticed that there has been a reduction in the per square footage that people are paying in rent to help get these spaces filled? Would it be in that? Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. He did speak about planning department, and he's speaking about the relationship with the corporation and the study that was done, and that they're occupying more space now as opposed to before, from 15 to 10%. And I'm just curious as to how we came about it. Maybe the landlords are reducing the rent to get people in. I don't know, but it may be out of his remit. I'm not sure. But I was curious.
The question is, have the increase gone up as a result of?
No, it has a decrease
Is it
going up.
because of the cost of renting square footage?
Yes, yes.
What, is it in planning?
Is it
agreement?
qualified anywhere in the
Planning
stats?
agreement.
Yeah.
Is it in
Just trying
planning
to find out.
agreement?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr.
Oh, there was
Speaker,
a
that is data that doesn't appear to be captured
I figured.
in this particular report. What they did is you go out and you compare how many places were occupied when you did it a few years ago to how many places are occupied now, and you say today more places are occupied than before. But in terms of how much it costs to rent those places, that's not part of the data captured.
Okay.
Looking for a trend.
Okay.
Yeah,
Supplementary, or you're fine?
Yeah.
You're fine?
I'm fine, yes. yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Minister, for the same statement, MP Tucker would like to put a question to you. MP Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess my question's a bit somewhat in the same vein as the whip. I just wanted to know, is the government considering any kind of incentives for retail to such as like tax relief grants or anything like that to encourage more occupancy? Obviously, the increase in the rental units is great, the percentages that were provided, or I should say the drop in the numbers, but are they considering any incentives? Thanks.
Minister?
Again, Mr. Speaker, that's something that falls out of my remit. More probably likely a question aimed at the Ministry of Finance. That would be the one providing incentives like that, tax incentives.
Thank you. Supplementary?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Minister, there's one more member who'd like to put a question to you on this statement, and it's MP Campbell. MP Campbell?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the minister, having expanded the approved residential scheme initiative to cover the entire city, can the minister advise on any developments that have resulted from that, or the number of units that have been constructed as a result of that? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, this statement didn't speak to the number of planning, anyone seeking planning permission for that. That's something that I could endeavor to find out. I will take this opportunity to say that the planning department has added to their website data statistics on the number of permits that are being processed, the number of building permits that have been processed, and the number of construction projects that have started. So there's a comprehensive list of this actual data. It doesn't speak to the exact project or where it is, but it does talk about the numbers, and perhaps the member could glean some of that information from that particular set of statistics that have now recently been published on the website.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the launch of the portal is a great idea. I'm very encouraged by some of the information that the minister provided. I would like to know what steps the ministry will take, though, to ensure that seniors, low-income residents, and persons with limited digital literacy, that they can access the portal. Is there going to be any training provided or anything like that to help people that might be in those instances? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And that is a very interesting question. It's something I actually hadn't given any thought to training for the website. It's pretty intuitive on there, but I'm as I do get approached by persons, in canvassing, there could be some difficulties navigating a website. And so I would take that under advisement and find out from the IDT team, is there any way of providing any sort of guidance on that. I do know there has been a social media campaign to say, here's the new website, here's where you can find things and those sorts of stuff. In terms of access, currently now the Bermuda National Library has access free internet access for persons who wish to come and utilize, so those can be used as well. But I do know in other conversations we're having about using post offices and different stuff, but that'll be subject to further statements later on in the year.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a second question. Thank you to the minister for that answer. My second question is, I'm always concerned about cybersecurity. So I do know the minister did mention that he has an excellent team that has worked on the portal. I would like to know, though, if an independent pen test has been conducted, and if so, how often will they be conducted? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again, thank you for that question. I don't have that data in front of me, but I do know those tests do take place, and I can endeavor to find out that information for you.
Thank you. I would welcome the response. Thank you. Third question. Third question has to do with accessibility standards. So again, I thought it was great that the minister did speak about the system being accessible. I would like to just know whether the accessibility that the minister spoke about meets the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0. So those are guidelines to ensure that people with disabilities, including those with visual, auditory, cognitive, and motor impairments, are able to access. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again, a very topical question. I did speak to accessibility. I do not have the data to reply to that response, and I do request that the member do just send me an email offline, and I'll endeavor to answer those questions for her forthwith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will email him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My first question is just, can the Honorable Minister please provide a brief timetable as to when she anticipates that these reforms will come before this Honorable House for the National Electricity Policy?
I thank the honourable member for his question. So the National Electricity Sector Policy will continue its consultation and end on the 21st of May. The ministry will review the responses from both the public and the sectoral stakeholders, and then it becomes tabled in the House. Following the tabling of the policy, that is then for the regulator to steward the implementation and use it to inform any future IRP planning, generation planning, etc.
Second question. Previously, the government had made a pledge towards renewables and has now moved away from that pledge. I just wanted to ask whether or not LNG will now be considered in the potential national electricity policy now that the renewable timetables have been moved away from. Thank you.
The National Electricity Sector Policy takes a technology agnostic approach. It is prioritizing the consumer, affordability, reliability, and ensuring that we do have implementation of and deployment of technology that we know is viable in our context. We know we don't have to commission more studies that cost money to both the regulator, the utility, the department to review and refine, because each of these surveys, each of these assessments costs more money to the average Bermudian. And so that's what we're trying to mitigate, is focusing on affordability. So the cost, and specifically looking at LNG, the extent to which the research and the further cost will increase, that is what the priority has been shifted away from.
Supplemental. The reason that I brought up LNG, and I guess my question would be now, because the infrastructure was built previously for LNG, and because of the push for renewables, it was pivoted away from. It was flagged as a potential cost saver for Bermudian households. So I just would like to ask the minister, could she endeavor to bring back to this honorable house the potential of pursuing that particular energy source and resource and research that has been conducted about it. Thank you.
I thank the honorable member for his question again. I think it's a topical one, and I will certainly bring information that has been brought to the attention of the department and the ministry to the House and share it with him. But what I do know is that there was a private entity decision. It just so happens to be our incumbent utility that made a decision regarding the investment in technology, which was a dual fuel engine. But what shouldn't be ignored is the fact that for every purchase of technology, there's also infrastructure, piping, regasification that is required and not currently deployed. So there is a portion of it that would suggest that it is eligible for LNG. However, the conversion is a year. There's infrastructure, piping. We already have the Honorable Minister of Public Works diligently working on our roads. And so we're talking about unpacking roads and creating further pipelines to facilitate LNG, which is a costly enterprise. So while there may be specific private enterprise decisions that make it costly to run, there is public and the ratepayer and the general public's pocket that we're trying to preserve.
Third question, Mr. Speaker. Given the push for the affordability that I support as well, with the minister's priority on making energy more affordable for Bermudians, my question is: has the national electricity policy taken into account the effect of less customers utilizing electricity in our island, and how that will impact costs going forward?
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely want to address a point that I also included in my ministerial statement, and talks about the ministerial directive, which is actually also included in the contents of the statement and the contents of the NESP. And that includes being able to explore models that would ensure that there are fairer pricing structures to identify cost-saving opportunities. So that looks at the way in which our current model is priced, Mr. Speaker, and also looks at the way in which further customers can be fairly disperse the pricing that is cost for electricity generation.
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, Mr. Speaker, I think it was covered in the PQ, parliamentary question. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a great statement. I was glad to hear that what the minister had brought forward. Well, huh? Declare my interest? Oh my goodness. Jeez. Woo! Yeah. Yes. I said it was a good statement. I must have been partaking. Yeah, the question was for the doctors. He mentioned doctors and pharmacists. Is there a specific license that will be required outside of their medical license to be able to dispense these pharmacy?
Mr. Speaker, thank you for that question from the honorable member. But I did have in my statement that no additional licenses will be needed by medical practitioners. You just have to be a registered doctor or pharmacist.
Yeah, that was the part that was missing, because there's a lot of doctors, right? So we can say doctors, but it didn't say medical doctor or anything. Because you've got doctors in all kinds of alternative medicine and the likes. And I'm not sure if that's going to be included. That's why I was asking the question. So maybe if the minister knows that. Yes. Or that a naturalist can just go ahead and do it as well, because that's part of the problem that we're having, right? So the other part is yeah, that's what I wanted to clarify. So the other part is that the mix, time? Okay. I'll act on it.
Listening, that takes up to 60 minutes allotment of questions this morning. So we have to conclude here, even though we hadn't got through all the questions that were listed on the order paper or the members wanted to put to statements. But time determines when that period ends. It's now the end of that 60-minute period. We have about 2 minutes left on the clock before we would arose for the reset for the lunch period. Premier, I'm going to ask that we rise now and take that extra 2 minutes now, unless there are any objections. Are there objections? No, Premier?
Mr. Speaker, I move this honorable House to now adjourn for lunch and return at 2 p.m.
Thank you. I already asked that there are no objections to us rising, so we now rise for the lunch period and we return at 2 p.m. Members of the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m.